Recording is on.
Welcome to the December 23rd DXgov governance discussion. To go over the agenda first, the governance 1.0 items, talk about community rep boost, the proposal roundup, a discussion on a recent worker proposal and how the trial period works. And I think we can segue that into a larger discussion on the worker comp guidelines, the trial period and onboarding, and Pulp has put together some good information on that that we're going to go over that I think will be related to that. And then I had a couple quick thoughts on trying to reach majority votes, and then the governance 1.x stuff going over. There's I think the market is still ongoing for like another 12 hours on XDI for voting on a favorite Omen market, and then it might be fun to think about what to do next on that. And then we have a pretty big development on the 1.x front in terms of DXD snapshot voting. So we'd like to go over that. And then not too much right now, I think, to report on the governance 2.0 stuff, but then would like to carve out a nice chunk of time to talk about the overtime on the proposal immediately halting the bonding curve. But I think just to set up, it would be great to like kind of try to accomplish most of the things that we want to do on like a day-to-day governance point, and then kind of have the last part for the immediately halting the bonding curve discussion, because I think there will be some additional thoughts on that. Cool. So just go over the community rep boost real quickly. This is something I think we started last week, was the December one. And then there are a couple of different nominations. And just as an update on that, I think there have been both Ezra and Nylon have submitted their rep boost, and then I've contacted Christopher, Luray, Sasa, and the AV Crypto Lamer, who's the Russian YouTuber. And so I've contacted them and sent them this guide that I'm just going to paste in here. So hopefully that will be helpful in getting more people engaged. Sky had an interesting idea on incorporating the encrypted signature from Keybase, which I think is now a recommended step. And I saw that Ezra did it, but when it said, like, when I decrypted it, I was expecting to see Ezra, but it was decrypted into someone with a mustache, and I was really confused because I know Ezra no longer has that. But Sky, I don't know if you want to talk about the Keybase thing here.
Yeah, is that still in the guide, the bottom of the guide? So yeah, Ezra did it. Is Ezra on the call? No. I was just asking him how difficult he thought it was. It's an extra step. Like it mixes with like what you were describing of like social proof as well, but it's a cryptographic proof, and it allows especially new timers or new members to DXDAO that have no rep, have no proven wallet address connected with them. It's the safest and most efficient and clear way, assuming they have Keybase account, which I would say if you're involved with DXDAO, you probably have a Keybase account and you've probably interacted somewhere on Keybase. It's a way to attach your Keybase identity, which your Keybase identity can actually be attached to like your Twitter and whatever else you choose to attach it to. So Keybase is a great way to like bring all the pieces together and also attach it to the wallet that you use for DXDAO in a cryptographic way. So it's pretty easy how it's done. It's an extra practice that maybe we should use in altogether. Even like your 3-box, handles, like you could put a name for your 3-box handle, but like anyone can put any name for the 3-box handle. That's the difference. In Keybase, if you know someone is a Keybase person, that signature is actually the only way you can prove that you are that Keybase person. So yeah, it's a cool thing to add to our like regular practices, I think.
And Keybase itself allows its users to tie their identity to their Twitter, GitHub, and other. You don't have to do this, but it's also there's like these avenues to provide additional social proof. But I think even just the fact that somebody has maybe been participating in Keybase is like at least, some proxy to their identity within the DXDAO context. So I think it's a good way to make like rep boosts and kind of new rep distributions, resistant to some kind of a Sybil attack or people faking it to get additional rep.
Yeah, and part of this process is like getting people involved with the governance process, the proposal process, like joining Keybase. So I think it's a good thing of kind of getting integrated with the community and seeing the different ways that we work. Cool. And then looking on to just the proposal roundup, we had several ENS proposals that have gone through over the last week. We had a lot of updates, obviously the swapper release, but then dxstats.eth, which I think passed. And then I think there's another proposal to update that. And then there was also the website homepage that has gone through, which I think has looked really great. It's actually really nice now because I like go to, when I want to find something, because I'm looking worker compensation guidelines or the code bases. If, for instance, I was looking for a thing for Rails, it's nice because I now just go to the DXDAO website because it's the easiest place to find that information. So that's good. Several different worker proposals, and as I said, there's a rep boost for Ezra and Nylon. There was a worker proposal that I upstaked and then downstaked. It was from Tony. We're working on that. I think he had not vested the DXD on that. We'll work on another proposal there. And then there's also, I think the last one is there is a payment to fund the gas refund contract for gas refunds that is out there that I think is about to pass.
On the on the refunds, Nico, you may have a better idea of this, but I think there's a lot of people that like didn't claim round 0 and maybe round 1, and it's probably not a majority percentage, but it was round 0 already returned. Like there was a set amount of time you could claim your refund, right? So if you didn't claim it, you lost the chance on those rounds, right? And that money goes back into the DAO. Is that the correct case?
Absolutely correctly. Yeah. So the refunds are limited to 3 months. So basically, everybody can claim their governance refunds up to 3 months, and after that time has passed, anybody can call the contract to destroy itself, and it sent back the funds to the treasury. That already happened for round 0, and it should be just a few days left until the same happens to the found 1.
Yeah. Do you know what percent of the pot was claimed, roughly, or how much? I guess.
No, I would have to look it up.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to know. We want to make it. We want to make sure as many people claim as possible. But I don't. It's kind of, what's that noise? It's kind of like trying to get people to do rep boosts. They have to take some initiative to claim it themselves, right? So it's not pushed to them. They have to claim it, which is a good practice to have because we're going to have scenarios like that in the future as well with other things. But how to make that as active as possible is something we can work on, I guess.
I think this is something we might want to do. Want to add to the workers dashboard. Like my reason I'm not doing it is because basically I'm too lazy for that kind of money. Like I have too much to do, so I skip it. I think all these smaller stuff, that would be great to build them in some kind of dashboard or something.
I agree, but I do think also we want rep. This is about, I think, rep holder at large engagement, and so because I think this initiative could expand participation, and so I think it's also part of engagement with rep holders too. Cool, and then we'll hit on the bonding curve proposal in just a minute, but wanted to go back to the proposal. What was the exact? And so I think this was with Eugene. The proposal or the form title was "I finished my trial period and no one is voting on my proposal. Why?" And then there was a follow-up from Zet that kind of outlined some of the reasons that voting against the proposal. And I think, you know, people on this call, we've talked specifically about this instance and also some of these instances in the past. So it's not that news to people here, but this is an instance of like, how do we had a worker that it just didn't work out exactly. And so how do we communicate that, not just to the worker, but also to the broader community and do that? So I think this is an example of that. And I think it's the takeaway for me is having a process that brings up these issues, right? So not so much like these issues fester and then someone has to volunteer to bring up them, but maybe there's some meeting point, like a performance review or a trial period where it comes off, where we had here, that having that like point where there's a decision made. And then I also think it's important that we're documenting this and giving clear feedback on the forums and directly to the proposals that are being proposed. So I don't know if anyone had any specific questions about how this proposal and how this kind of with Eugene went, or Zed, if you had anything to add from your side.
I think we're learning, and I put down a lot of time on these trial workers, and sometimes I feel it's wasted because I didn't get much result. But I think it's useful that we go through these shorter trial periods. We did 2 weeks trial periods, and we basically asked them to do the proposals before they finish the work. And I think that's one of the mistakes. We should wait until we see some work has been done before we ask them to do the proposal. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things about the process itself, but we're learning.
So what do you think? Maybe like a week, just to get an idea of what we're thinking, like time wise, to kind of feel like, how long do you feel like it took you for you kind of to feel like there was a red flag?
I mean, if you're a person that wants to scam the DAO, it's really easy to just act like, or you're actually working for real for a whole week. So I would say a week is not even enough. I mean, now we had 3 people come in at the same time, and they all gave us that red flag, but they gave us them at different times. So I would say a whole month at least. It depends. Like if someone is 100% anonymous, that's, for me, that's a red flag from the start. Like we shouldn't expect that person to be honest. Like we should just start in a different way if someone is 100% anonymous. So if someone has a portfolio and is known or whatever, that's another thing. That's my opinion, at least.
Maybe we can use a vouching system for people, you know, that are being introduced by other people, and that will, you know, like go a long way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have anonymous people here already, and I vouch for one at least. And I said basically, if this person doesn't like say or do what he is saying, or at least if like I take the blame, and not for the performance, but if something wrong happens. So I think vouching system is good because, yeah, I mean, it's you don't need to tell your identity just to work with us, but we don't want to babysit those people. So it's good to have one person to have responsibility.
And there should also be a path though for people that don't get vouched for and don't know anyone, but could contribute. And the simple answer is the 2-week trial period, or 2-week and then another 2-week trial period. You do that, and then you submit for payment, and then you get paid after that. Like, that's the easiest way to protect against it.
Yeah. So like
lots of people have done that.
I think the major issue was that all those people, they were anonymous. So it's a signal for us that we need to treat anonymous people differently than people with identity. So they need to, like, I don't think they are like, we should do the 2 weeks trial with them, but rather let them work first until they get anything.
Yeah, and we had, I mean, just because the way that these things go, I think Izetta is saying we learn these things, but it also, like, it takes a while to unfold and we have to respond. And so I feel like we did kind of hit some of these ideas, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and specifically, I think, on the anonymous thing. But I think it does kind of bring up the larger questions about processes and that. And so I wanted to switch the conversation a little bit to what Pulp had been putting together, which I think is the beginnings of an answer to these types of, or a structure that can answer these types of situations, because we want to be able to have them across the board and not just for the good cases or the bad cases. So Pulp, I don't know if you want to share the document, and maybe we could, actually, I think it'd be good to share your screen too. I can do that too, if.
Hey, sorry, I had to switch browsers because it was breaking up on my end. If you don't mind, could you share the document?
Yeah.
Just I'm switching over right now. I like pretty much missed the whole last 5 minutes, but yeah. If you don't mind.
Just setting you up.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, so I mean, I think it'd be good to go over the contributor guidelines that you were working on. I think that, let me find them quickly. Actually,
I can put the link in the.
I got it right here.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. All right.
So right now, like, first thing, Chris and I agree with Chris. Right now, it's kind of long, but the reason it's in this structure is I was thinking eventually when the website's updated with some sort of wiki where we have, different sections that you can click on and then, kind of scroll to like your table of contents area that you have a question about. That's the format. But obviously for now, until we get to that place with the website, we would have these maybe more in separate, more digestible documents, as we've kind of been doing with, I think, pretty much all of our documents to date. Let's see, aside from that, one thing about, and everyone please, like, we'll put it in the Keybase and stuff, but this is just the starting point of something that I took from just friends I have who do employment law, some loose areas that maybe we could cover. And I tried to think about them more creatively as far as not being so dry and boring, but also adapting to like what our needs are as a DAO, just to make sure we're covering all of our bases. So some stuff is a little bit more specific, just so, any reasonable person could read it and know what's expected of them. The onboarding section is just something I drafted up today that is the product of Keenan's work as well. And so I'm sure we're gonna continue to update it and want feedback from that. Like Chris has already kind of provided some info on. And I think we took some stuff maybe from Zet's comments during a couple meetings back regarding, I think, just the process of onboarding. So I think, if there's questions about that kind of stuff, we can definitely talk about it. One thing that just came up that is mentioned that we have in the old worker compensation guidelines is a 2-month trial period. But as Chris kind of noted in the comments there, that's a bit long maybe for our current circumstances. So we could definitely maybe come to some sort of consensus on shortening that time period. Also, with that said, maybe, right now we're doing it's pretty common, it seems, for people to do a 50-50 pay when they're doing a 2-month pay period. but maybe for someone who's just starting out and we haven't really experienced quality of work yet, they could be getting paid after showing their work, which, is pretty common in most companies anyways. So I don't think that's completely unreasonable. If anyone has any opinions they want to share about that stuff first, aside from the trial period.
Yeah, so another interesting area we need to think about is people who are actually killing bounties. So
Yeah.
Roy, I think he was like he finished one bounty like just partially, but he wants to continue working on it because he took a lot of time to get into our technologies and like read about stuff.
Yep.
And he asked me, I think we even mentioned that in our compensation guidelines, that we will consider bounty people as like already went through a trial. And I'm a little bit skeptical about that because I don't know how he's working. I don't know like if he's just a good fit for us. So that is something we didn't trial actually. The only thing we tried is he did some dev work, and that's just like just one part of being like a DXDAO contributor.
Do you guys remember how I onboarded? I didn't know about the bounties. I was just helping out. I wasn't really interested in working with DXgov, but I was in the chat helping out with the graphics, banners, helping out with like some marketing stuff. And then I was like with you for almost 2-3 months, and then the full-time product designer role came up, and I said I'm interested, and I basically just started. And someone suggested, I've already been here for 2-3 months, and showed like that I can help out, showed I had some skills at least, and then we'd do some kind of, I don't know, CME trial round, but it was not the usual one. I just started basically in the first month. And maybe that was lucky, but I think I would like to see more, like longer period where someone is engaged, like not someone just coming first day and saying, hey, I want that position. But like maybe, I don't know, it's hard because we need to onboard people onto Keybase first. And so it's, I would say it depends on what kind of person that is, but I would love to see that kind of stuff happening often. Let's say if someone is headhunting down a really good developer, he's known, he's really good, should we put him on trial? Like is that the thing? Should we?
I think that like two things. So first off is like these rules you kind of want to engage kind of worst case scenario. So even if it's kind of a ceremonial trial period, even we think the person's work stellar, it's like, okay, we're, just so you know, it's a trial period right now, but you kind of just are going through the motions, obviously a little bit, but it can kind of just like make sure everyone's on the same page and catch any, just any miscommunications that may arise about expectations. Like sometimes someone's really awesome, but maybe they're committed to too many projects or something and the fit's not quite right. You don't know really until you try. I mean, we had a similar experience where we kind of were, posting stuff on the DAO Talk page. And then from that, decided that it would be interesting to try and work for the DAO. And from that experience, I think I talked to Sky about potentially waiving our first month of the trial period just based on past work. And he seemed okay with it. But it was, pretty loose, and we could definitely think about doing something a little bit more short and just to get a better feel for the working relationship. I think that could be fine. If anyone else has any opinions.
Yeah, I think
I think the main question is like, are we considering workers members, and is the trial period just for work, or is it trial period for being a member? And that's my point. Like this guy Roy, who finished some part of the Omen thing, I don't know if he's a member, and that's actually important for me. So he not doing the trial is probably not a good thing for me and for us, because we don't know if he's going to be a member. And like Should
do you
the
mean
trial
by
be for trialing, for like seeing if someone is emerging as like a member, or is it just like plain worker?
What do you mean by member exactly?
Understanding what the DXDAO is, and like, yeah, not just only caring about getting paid, but rather seeing the actual goal of this collective.
Yeah, perhaps that's defined by those receiving rep. I think there's actually two different things we're trying to accomplish here. One is almost an anti-Sybil measure, and the other is closer to performance review. So I think we should have a 2-week trial period that is trying to address some of these, the anonymous problems with anonymity, the problems with like, will this person fit on an immediate basis? And we should have like a quick answer on that. And then separately, I think we should have a 2-month period, which is in general like a flexible time for both the contributor and the DXDAO themselves. And that's why I think it's good to have that at like 75% of salary for the first month and then 90% for the second month. And then at the end of that 2 months, there's some performance review that occurs. And so maybe it's not exactly like a trial period for that 2 months, and maybe we need some different lingo here. But I think that they're kind of two separate instances where we're looking to get feedback or provide feedback.
I think, in my opinion, it would be worth to have these kind of more hands-on like talks with trial workers, in more valued at the beginning rather than the end. I don't think having one big shebang at the end would be as valuable as, kind of crafting and making sure a trial worker is on the right path closer to the beginning. I think in traditional work environments, it's usually, you have a lot of reviews closer to the beginning, and as you're nearing the end of your period is when it's kind of slowing down.
Yeah, so that is actually a great point. Like, I think it's very important that at some point the newcomer like knows, okay, this is my mentor, not really mentor, but the guy who's onboarding me, and that maybe should be part of our like proposal scheme. That once they actually do the proposal, there is like a clear responsibility person who needs to make sure that this person gets everything they need to get convinced to get a member. And that's actually very important. And I see with with all those people who are joining the Omen team, I need to make sure that they really want to work on Omen and they're gonna stay in the Omen team, right? So I need to make sure there's like a healthy work environment and they like actually get to know what the DXgov is all about.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think this is the short-term thing we need to do starting like going forward if we can reach some consensus that I think and I just highlighted the comment here, that I think we should be assigning an onboarding guide or a single DXgov contributor that helps a newcomer along. And I think that this should be divided by these emerging squads we have. So if we have someone that comes in and wants to contribute, they're going to fit into one of those squads. And then it is on those squads, presumably the squad lead, squad scout, squad whatever, to be responsible for that onboarding component. And I think that will help a lot in answering the clear questions. But we of course need to have a wider onboarding guide for all DXgov workers. It's just the assigned person to walk someone through that would be the particular squad that they're working in.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And if, once we decide whoever that wider onboarding guide is, we can link, to their Keybase, even in this section, they could DM as well as introducing the Keybase like we have. But yeah, just try it, and we can expand on this, just walking through, join Keybase, join DAO Talk, start reading the posts. It's kind of with every DAO, it's a bit of a steep learning curve in order just to get really familiarized with everyone. So, this should be a 1 to 2 week process at least, especially if you're brand new to the DAO, I imagine. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Is there more, Chris?
No, I was going to say that was it. The last thing I was going to say is the one thing I think we should also have in the trial period, there's 2 weeks, is to get some meeting attendance written in, especially like one outside of their kind of core squad. And that will be a way of kind of integrating too.
Right. I think I have that. Maybe it's number 4, number 3, even in the onboarding, because I do think just to figure out, just to figure out a little bit who's on what squad and who you'd even want to kind of talk to about what you might be doing. Maybe someone has a similar position to you. You don't want to just talk to the leader, but they can reach out to someone who you might be doing similar work as them. That whole thing would be helpful for just going to the meetings. Okay, cool. So I wanted to also mention, so what we're going to try and do more to-do guides. So for as far as the worker compensation is concerned, just the updates that were made here so far have been just like clarity updates, just to spell out things that even we were confused about at first was, do we get paid at the end? Are we getting paid 50-50? And that's, again, I think, I'm not sure if we've come to a clear consensus on that issue yet. And we can maybe make some comments about it, but maybe at least for the first trial period, which, maybe the first 2 months, and it's a long time to wait to get paid for like a normal position, right? But maybe there is something there about, at least filing, maybe doing your worker proposal after the trial period, if it's only 2 weeks. And then you can, ask for 50 payment, 50 in the beginning, 50 at the end of your first 2-month review. I don't know if anyone has any feelings on that, but that's something that we could deal with.
Yeah, I think clarity is the most important thing, rather than just having people would be willing, as someone said, like, of course, people in traditional companies get paid after they complete their work. I think that's fine here, as long as we have a clear path for when the proposal to be submitted.
Right. Okay, cool. So just clarify it. And if anyone has any major issues, make a note and we can talk about it again if we have to. I think this was brought up for also an area that there was some confusion about. Both Keenan and I noted it for our process, is whether, like the compensation during what we currently have a trial period where it's 75% for the first month, second month is 90%. Is the rep also going to be distributed at that point on a pro rata basis? I think the consensus seems like maybe yes. Any feelings on that? Sounds like that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that the rep should be treated pro rata, just like the payment.
Cool. Okay, so we'll clarify that and make that the same. What else? Okay. Yeah, so I mean, people, I'm going to fill this out more as we go, but I do want to, I think it's a fun opportunity for us to show how different we are as a DAO versus other companies. And so I want to talk about our flat hierarchy structure. If you see a problem, fix it. Maybe eventually we'll talk about squads at some point. Something that came up, I think, we don't really have business hours. We're like a, international DAO. But, I think something that Keenan and maybe Zet were talking about was that we should try to figure out maybe somewhere, at least for contributors, like who are currently being paid by the DAO, to at least list time zones. It seems like we all kind of know what time zone we're all on, but something just in case you have to reach out to somebody else or need them soon. I'm not sure if that's something that maybe we'll have kind of work together at some point. We could add that where people can put that information in there.
Yeah, I think that is especially important for the health of the member. As someone who can speak a little bit from experiences working for the DXgov, there is no limit. I can work from midnight until the whole day ended, and that's actually unhealthy. We need. I would love to have one page where I see everyone, every worker's business hour, so I know when I can reach them and when I can't reach them, and when I actually shouldn't reach them, because everyone should have their balance in life. And I would right now say that I don't have that balance right now, and it's That's fine for a while, but I think that is a very important thing we need to fix.
I'm not sure if there's anything on the Notion side regarding that, but we do have a worker table that's probably just about ready to be filled out, just ratifying some any concerns with it and making sure it all fits in with the rest of the Airtable, and then we can probably start having a form filled out.
Cool. Yeah, because I feel the same way sometimes when I'm in a role and I just decide to write somebody. I'm like, I wonder if they're like sleeping right now. You don't know if it's appropriate or not. Okay, quick 2 other things besides business hours. Holidays. I mean, is that something people want to? I know we're international, so it's not like, oh yeah, the 4th of July, but at the same time, do we want a few holidays a year where it's like kind of silent and people opt to, if they want to talk, they can talk, but if like New Year's Day, for example, it's just kind of time off, or do we want to just leave that alone and let people do what they want to do?
Yeah, so that's actually another great point. Like right now, it's completely spaghetti about who's actually working and who's not working. Maybe it's great. I think having like static periods in a year where we know it's basically vacation for the DXgov is kind of nice. And I personally would be pro this, because everyone has, like, especially when everyone has their own proposal schedule timelines, and like, I don't know, I need, like, for Omen specific, I needed to reach out to people and ask them like, hey, do you actually work on that specific times and those specific times? And having like clear dates eliminates a lot of confusion for all of us, and it's actually great to have vacation.
I'm not so much like a fan of that. I mean, obviously, like I'm not a paid worker, so like feel free to like discard my opinion. But this, like in Germany, work-life balance is a really, really big thing, and it's kind of like super, like one of the most important things, for everyone who's working anywhere. Like no matter how old they are, even if they're just 18 years old. But I don't think we should like try to also bring that over to like a DAO and just let people work whenever they want, right? So I mean, like even New Year's, like for people who might be like in China and who might or like who celebrate like the Chinese New Year, right? Like the 1st of January doesn't mean anything to them, and so I wouldn't like set up any strict rules. I would just let people do whatever they want.
I think there might. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say I agree with that. That I mean, it's presumptuous to set a holiday because it varies so widely across the globe, and we have a very distributed workforce. Of course, I think work balance is super important, and people should be able to take their local holidays. But I think in terms of coordination, it really should just be a matter of people sharing when they are available or when they might not be available for their own personal vacations or holidays. And maybe we could work on tooling to make that easier to communicate. But yeah, I mean, I think also in terms of the relationship between DXDAO and the people working, I view it more as like a contractor relationship than like what you might see, at least what I'm familiar with in terms of like an employee relationship in the United States. Like there's no additional benefits, etc. You make your own hours. Like DXDAO is not telling you have to work during certain times or take certain holidays. And I think that actually works pretty well. I mean, that said, I mean, I think we do want long-term relationships with the workers and we want people to be well taken care of. But I think in terms of like how it's viewed mechanically, or even like to take analogy to other legal relationships, it's more of a contractual relationship.
I think you took the words right out of my mouth with that one. My comment was maybe we should be establishing that kind of contractual relationship and what that means, because there's a little bit of a disconnect in how it was described before, and we've kind of been working on a little bit where it's like full-time kind of hourly based employment versus contractual. And when I was originally introduced, I was under the impression it was, okay, I state what I will be doing and that it will be like a full-time commitment. But, if I can do that in 6 hours a day, then it's contractual. I've done my obligation and that's that. So I think maybe specifying whether or not we should be focusing on the hours or focusing on the content, I think would be valuable.
Right. I mean,
Well, so
go ahead,
yeah,
John.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to address the hours. I think we should avoid falling into this kind of romanticized trap of I can get work done in 4 hours because I'm super productive or something.
Oh yes.
Like, I think ultimately you're getting paid for your time. I mean, that said, I mean, I think people should have flexibility, and it's really like more about like their bandwidth and commitment. But I mean, I think if we're talking about what somebody can get done in a certain amount of time, that should not be like, we should not try to play these games of like, how much time are you actually working? I think that should be addressed in the level that you're actually being paid at.
Yeah, I agree. I think just establishing what that should look like and having that written down for reference, I think, would be valuable. Just so that doesn't happen.
Just to jump in here, I think it's been really confusing on what's happening the next week in DXDAO, and I think it's been like stressful and anxiety ridden on like, should we have this meeting or should we not have this meeting? So I think we should figure out how to address that more broadly.
Right. So, well, okay. So,
and I think a bit saying and I think we want to have policies that kind of accomplish a bunch of things. But I think what we're looking for in a lot of these things is clarity, and there's a lack of clarity that we need to kind of institute. And whether that clarity is we're going to be flexible on these things or not, it's just the lack of clarity, I think, makes it stressful for people contributing.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, okay, so for the tricky part about considering as contract workers is it's almost like short-term contract workers where, you know, some people state, you know, I'm working full-time. I think that could work. I don't think, John had a suggestion in one of our comments in the worker guidelines about maybe a day a month to take a free day for yourself. Like, you don't have to subtract that time from your worker proposal in order to take a day off once a month. Maybe we could also do something, you know, it could be kind of like vacation time, and we're going to get into that as well. But, you know, people can be allotted, we could say, you know, on average, every country has a certain amount of holidays that we take off. So we could say somewhere between like 5 to 10 holidays, you know, a year, you know, and everyone just can kind of say, hey, this is one of my holiday days. I'm taking a holiday. This is, you know, a holiday where I'm in Europe versus the United States. And we could just write that out. Say like, you know, as long as you stay, it's a holiday. You let us know you're not here. Fine. And we could just kind of try that out as like a clarifying point. And then, you know, same kind of thing separately from vacation. So you can distinguish between vacation and holidays. Just because I think it's a little stressful, and maybe this is just my feeling of like making people subtract what's a holiday from their worker pay, because that's like a little bit, you know, people should be able to take time off. You know, it shouldn't have to be subtracted from their pay if they're, you know, celebrating Christmas, or if they're not celebrating Christmas and they're celebrating New Year's. So I can write something up that maybe could make sense as like 5 holidays a year. Everyone has like 5 holidays, and then we can talk about how vacation works separately.
Yeah, I like this like baseline kind of like, you can take this much off at this rate, like so that it works even when people are not necessarily working full time for the full year. Maybe they go a few months on and take a little time off, etc. Like something that can work in that context, I think would be great.
Cool. All right. So I'll add updates and put it in the Keybase, and people can comment if they want to do more or less, and we'll do a poll or something in DAO Talk once we get something more final.
I mean, I'm back here on the computer. So one thing about the vacation days here, or not vacation, holidays, is it's good if we sync. I know we might get Asians and Chinese people or whatever, they have different, but it's good if we sync those holidays. It's good if we recommend holidays and say, you know what, New Year's Eve, no one should work. Like I think we are much more effective if we can help each others and like, yeah, I think it's good to just recommend specific days and then have some other free days separate from that.
I mean, just plan your work, that you will not have to rely on anybody else, if you specifically want to work. I don't think anybody really, especially in this Western Hemisphere, really wants to work on the 1st of January. But
and this is the problem is I think we're basically going to work on the 1st of January because no one wanted to make a decision about it. And I think we just need to be okay with talking about these things and saying we shouldn't work on January 1st if people don't want to work, but no one wants to be the one because we always want to work the hardest, we want to prove our worth, right? And so that's why I think this is a classic tragedy. I'm gonna
delete the meeting off the shared calendar on Christmas and New Year's, and if anyone else has a good reason, they can delete another meeting too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we should have DXgov holidays, the bonding curve going live.
Does everyone here have the calendar? I'm assuming everyone here has the calendar. If you don't have the calendar, you're going to be confused probably.
So I think yeah, there's a calendar. We could share that on Keybase. But I think Zach's point about syncing is important. But I think what is more practical rather than trying to coordinate that, I mean, we should be having the goal of trying to scale to hundreds, right? So. I think rather than trying to coordinate that and figure out, 40 different nations' holidays and how to sync that, and 8 different religions and how to sync that.
Give me a holiday. Give me a country that does not take January 1st off.
I think didn't Christopher just say China doesn't do that?
China does. Live there.
Oh,
long time.
Okay, well, so whatever. I mean, if there's a universal holiday, that's fine. But I think in general, I think the syncing. But the point I want to make is the syncing should happen at the squad level, right? So if there's 5 people working on Swapper and they want to say hey guys, most of us are off on Christmas, let's just treat that as a Swapper team holiday, then I mean, I think that the individual squads or smaller groups should be free to coordinate in that way. And it's really around the people who need to be coordinating, right? And it's I think most typically this is going to be a product team, right?
Okay. So maybe New Year's Day might be the one holiday, and I'll do some research if there's any other universal days. But aside from that, yeah, maybe something we start with the 5 days allotted. I'll look at country averages or something for holidays and, figure something out. Okay, next thing is vacation, which falls into this really well, I guess. Yeah, again, we're international. Some places get, 5 weeks vacation. The United States by law can give you 0 weeks vacation. So there's a lot there.
Wait, I'm worried about starting the vacation. I feel like after the holiday conversation, I'm worried about diving into another vacation conversation. Should we I don't know, table this? I'm worried about the time a little bit, or what do people think about it?
I think it's a good idea. Table
it. I think this document I think is really, really good, where especially at the end, we get into a lot of these things that we need to figure out on standards and suggestions. And again, I just think that we can say flexibility is a good thing, but lack of clarity is a problem with people kind of working here. So I think this is a good way of just providing some guidelines for working forward. But before I just wanted, because I know we have a bunch of other things that I wanted to get to, so just wanted to see if there's any other thoughts on this doc or the holidays and maybe, yeah. This is why this is so hard.
We still have the bonding curve
I know, yeah.
You can't vote no on the bonding curve and then stuff the agenda here.
And snapshot as well would be if we have time, but if not.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I actually just quickly also wanted to, because I did something, I think another thing we want to work on quickly is majority votes. And so I did just run through, DeepDAO is a good spreadsheet for this now. And I just kind of looked at rep holders and kind of where we're at there. So 28.3% of rep holders have never voted. That's 336 addresses. And you can see kind of the ones going down, 72% have voted once. And, we have over 53% that have voted at least 6 times, and that's 45 addresses. And then if you look at some of the 3 most popular proposals, just in terms of participation over the last several months, I think this is since July, you can see the numbers we have there. 28% I think it's 27%, 27.6 or something. And so I think it's possible we can get to a majority vote, but this is something I'm trying to work on, and I want to have for the scheme that we vote in, so we can try to get that. So I don't know, Nico, would be maybe, I know you have that post up already, but I guess when we look to do the proposal, we should think about try to make that into if we can get a majority vote on that.
Did you guys see the proposal? I don't know if it was up on Uniswap or somewhere else, but that said basically anyone that never laid a vote gets their uni slash or something like that. I don't remember exactly. I don't know if it was uni or something else. And like, are we interested in slashing people's rep if they don't vote in a longer period?
I think that what we thought about, of course, is inflation is a natural way of limiting their power. I think that we have thought about this in terms of, but I don't think there's been enough momentum to do anything at this point. I think that's
I also, like, we don't know what is the reason for non-voting. There are probably rep holders who are like guardians who are observing. Loopring is similar, and I think they are a protection mechanism for us, because the fact that we don't know who they are and why they are not voting, I'm actually like, I'm very against slashing someone's rep just because we think we should slash them. Like, I think that there should also be clear rules for when we are allowed to slash.
Yeah, it brings up a larger discussion on that. Anyway, I did just want to kind of present this, say I was thinking about it, and I thought those numbers were kind of interesting. Martin, do you want to touch quickly on the snapshot, the DXD snapshot page?
Yes, of course, yes. So snapshot is up, and the configuration is done, can only done by me. So but we can change that. It's decentralized. If I disappear, that's not a problem. But right now, it's done by me, and I have put a limit of 5 DXT to put up a vote. And I don't know if I just thought that's a good price, but I don't know. Maybe there's some other opinions about this. And Geronimo did some pull request that we get some icons on the snapshot page. Now it's like without any icons. Yeah, that's it. Basically, everyone who has like 5 DXT can now make a proposal. And then what you can do, you can like configuration, like doing admin proposals. I don't know how they are flagged, but I don't know if we should use that feature. And then if we use it, we need like addresses from the people who are admins. So I don't know. I assume that if you make a proposal and you are an administrator, then you get some special flag on the front end. But I don't know if we should use that at the moment. But I would have to configure these admins. It's more admins. It's more like a trust people to make proposal. And before the talk started, somehow it should be possible to. Gnosis had, I think, used a snapshot page and has some delegation, some form of delegation, but this needs some extra configuration. I don't know right now how this works. But the idea is that you can vote with a different wallet, then you have the DXT on, I think. Yeah, so now I think, yeah, I don't know how is it connected to the bonding curve discussions, if we want to activate this or if the community should do this. Any feedback?
Yeah, I mean, I think the bonding curve, we'd get to that, but I think anything else that we're thinking about just in general with the DXD snapshot, I think it's a really great tool that has just kind of come up, and glad Martin kind of took the reins on this, but I guess Martin is the admin, but it's still a helpful tool.
And there's a feature where you can like not show proposals. So if there's a lot of noise, you can hide proposals. It's just noisy, but you have to do it over the configuration. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm drafting just on the DAO talk, just an information page about this. Maybe the broader community can see this and we'll see what's going to happen. But it would be nice to, if somebody tries to make like a trial, I don't know. Because one thing is I will be offline like for 5 days next week. And so if there's any problem with this, yeah, it's going to be, I can change anything.
Awesome. And so should we put a snapshot vote up for the bonding curve?
Maybe you should just make a fake test. I don't know, a fun
probably another test first, but at some point it will be awesome to use it to get signal from DXD holders around the bonding curve. But I would, for the same reason, the DXDAO proposal should have like way more clarity and details around what that means. That should also be included in any proposal that goes to DXD holders. It shouldn't just, the question like, should the proposal be halted, or should the bonding curve be halted? Propose that to DXD holders, vote yes or no. Like, what is, like, that is also not good signal because it's how, right? Even for DXD holders.
Well, that's a good transition, I think, into the discussion on immediately halting the bonding curve proposal.
Just a moment.
Yeah.
But I thought, but I think technically it's not possible. But is it possible to do it for REP too, like a sneak signal version? No, it's
not. I don't think so. We've talked about this with Gusto had. I think this is where the whole Coven DAO came in, that we were trying to do it there and basically roll it up. But I guess it could be, but then we would have to, it wouldn't be decentralized because we'd be relying on a server.
Okay.
Martin, so you mean snapshot, right? So
yes.
There are non-ERC20 tokens that I think are part of our communities that are on snapshot. So obviously rep is this like other version of a token. It's not an ERC20, and it's actually held by the DAO, assigned to different addresses. I can ask the snapshot guy, but I don't see, it is an actual token that you have to reference, and if maybe you can delegate it to an address, just like you're delegating a different, like a GNO token or whatever. I would think that snapshot would work for that as well. So I can ask the guy at snapshot actually.
I don't know. First, we have to discuss if this makes sense. Anyway, if we want to do this, I don't know. Just an idea. But
yeah,
I mean, would make us faster just to test out some.
Well, the cool thing is that, I mean, Aragon is developing with Snapshot something to where you don't have to do a multi-sig wallet if you were to do full-on proposals on it, where it actually would have some sort of oracle that they're working with that would be like a relayer for on-chain voting from Snapshot directly. They've just announced it, I think, like maybe a month or two ago, and I don't think it's live yet. Yeah, so because one thing is we are going to be, Snapshot is great, but then we're now adding another site that we have to go to do something in. And so like a lot of like what I'm seeing just from my research lately on what a lot of DAOs are doing, and they're getting, it's not nearly as, you can have way more issues with doxing if you're just doing a basic poll on DAO talk for signaling. But, at least it's in the discussion channel. We're just creating a lot of different sources that can kind of lead to like barriers of entry for voting, especially when we also have alchemy. But I think it'd be fun to, at least for now, especially when DXD holders aren't, well, we're still working out governance 2.0 issues, to have DXD holders have an option, especially with something as controversial as the bonding curve, to vote and feel heard.
Yes, yeah, I think that's good. You mentioned that in a way it's easier to make just on the forum, as you said. So, Chris, go ahead. I think.
Yeah, well, just to toss up the meat to everyone. Yeah, so I mean, just the proposal immediately halt the bonding curve is in overtime, which happens when a proposal changes from one side to the other within the last 2 days before it would pass. So I think the idea being that you shouldn't have last minute attacks that kind of switch the proposal. So there was a last minute vote yesterday that pushed the proposal against, and then that boosted the overtime period for another 48 hours. And I think it's at like whatever 27 hours or something.